Imagine inventing a cultural phenomenon that completely reshapes human interaction for an entire decade.
Right, a total game changer for society.
Yeah, exactly. But then you wake up one morning and realize the newest generation wants absolutely nothing to do with it.
It's pretty wild.
It really is. Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we are looking at a fascinating situation unfolding in the tech world. Our mission for this session is to examine a single, highly revealing article about a radical $50 million product overhaul currently underway at Tinder.
Which is a massive amount of money.
Oh, for sure. And whether you are actively navigating the dating scene or happily partnered up for years or just, fascinated by how technology alters human behavior, you're going to want to hear what they are doing.
Yeah, because it is a massive case study happening in real time. We are watching a tech giant, a company that practically defined the modern digital social landscape, realize that its core foundational mechanic is fundamentally broken.
Broken for their most important demographic, right?
Exactly. To understand why this matters to you, even outside the context of dating, we have to look at the sheer scale of the shift.
Yeah.
Over half of Tinder's user base is under 30.
Wow. Over half.
Yep. So if a platform loses the youth demographic, it loses its future. This isn't just a minor tweak to the user interface or a new color scheme.
Right, not just moving buttons around.
No, we are looking at an existential pivot. The company is attempting to completely rewire the behavioral loops they originally engineered themselves.
The irony is incredibly rich here. I mean, Tinder is the app that practically invented modern rapid-fire swiping culture.
Oh, absolutely. They gamified romance.
They made it totally frictionless.
Yeah.
And now they're suddenly waking up to the reality that Gen Z, the newest generation of daters, is actively rejecting the swipe. They are just exhausted by it.
Completely burned out.
So Match Group, which is Tinder's parent company, is responding to this cultural shift with a massive $50 million investment commitment. They announced this back in August, specifically dedicated to fixing this broken dynamic. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Before we get into the wild features Tinder is actually building with that $50 million, we need to establish the baseline. We need to look at the symptoms of this decline to understand why a company would hit the panic button to the tune of $50 million.
Right. Well, the primary metric driving this massive investment is a sustained drop in Tinder's paid subscribers.
Ouch. That's the one that hurts.
It really is. In the app economy, when people stop paying for premium features, it is the most glaring, undeniable signal that the perceived value of the product has plummeted.
For sure.
The core issue highlighted in the source material is that young singles are actively swearing off online dating altogether.
Just deleting the apps entirely.
Exactly. They are retreating from the digital space in favor of trying to force real-world interactions. And to understand the mechanism behind this exodus, we really have to look at the psychology of the interface that Tinder popularized.
The swiping.
Right. The rapid-fire swipe was initially celebrated because it gamified dating. It gave the user an illusion of infinite choice. But what behavioral economists and psychologists have noted—
And what this exodus demonstrates.
Yeah, exactly, is the paradox of choice.
Right. When you have infinite options, you value none of them. Making any decision becomes totally paralyzing.
Precisely. Combine that with the actual mechanics of gamification. The dopamine hit in swiping doesn't come from finding a meaningful connection.
Where does it come from?
It comes from the slot machine pull of the swipe itself.
Oh, wow.
The anticipation of the match becomes the reward. Over a decade, that creates a profoundly hollow behavioral loop. Users aren't dating, they're just playing a repetitive matching game that ultimately leads to intense psychological exhaustion.
It is the perfect setup for this analogy that I think captures the current state of these apps. Going on a digital dating platform right now is like walking into a crowded singles bar where the vibe seems, perfectly engineered at first glance.
Dim lighting, good music.
Yeah, exactly. But then you look a little closer and you realize half the people in the room are actually robots actively trying to pick your pocket.
Which is terrifying.
And the other half are creeps trying to corner you.
Yeah.
And the few normal people left are just staring at the wall, completely exhausted by the whole ordeal.
That is a bleak picture, but the source material backs up that dystopian bar scenario with hard data. The article notes the platform is absolutely plagued by bots.
Like spam bots.
It goes far beyond just annoying spam accounts pushing links. The source cites Pew Research, highlighting a disturbingly high percentage of users experiencing unwanted behaviors and encountering sophisticated scammers.
Wow.
Yeah, it represents a fundamental breakdown of trust in the digital environment.
When the environment is that toxic, it makes total sense that people are just logging off.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, you start to see the corporate stakes involved. Match Group, the parent company, owns a massive portfolio of dating apps. They own Hinge, Match.com, and OkCupid.
But they don't own Bumble, right?
Correct. The source points out they do not own Bumble, which is a major competitor. But even within Match Group's own diverse portfolio, Tinder remains their undisputed top earner.
It's the cash cow.
Exactly. It is the financial engine funding the rest of the operation. If Tinder's reputation permanently sinks from a fun, frictionless way to meet people into a stressful gauntlet of bots and unwanted behavior, the entire corporate entity suffers a massive blow.
So if the app itself, the very concept of digital swiping, has become the point of friction, how does a software company solve that? I mean, they're built entirely on digital interaction, but the digital space is the problem.
It's quite the dilemma.
Ironically, their solution is to try and push people offline. They are taking a chunk of that $50 million and trying to invent real life again.
It is a remarkable strategy. A technology company realizing that the friction of real-world socialization actually served a vital purpose. They are attempting to use software to reverse engineer analog serendipity.
The article details a new feature they are piloting right now in Los Angeles, simply called Events. Instead of sitting on your couch swiping through a geographic radius, Tinder is curating physical, local activities.
Like what kind of activities?
We are talking about pottery classes, trivia nights, run clubs. Hillary Payne, the senior vice president of product at Tinder, is quoted saying they are trying to create a social community-first experience.
Interesting framing.
Yeah. The stated goal is to blend dating and social life, so you can just go to one of these events with a friend, have a good time with no explicit romantic pressure, and maybe meet someone naturally.
Notice the architecture of this analog experience, though. They aren't just telling people to go to a bar.
Right.
They're building a specific digital safety net into the physical event. The article outlines that in the aftermath of these curated activities, Tinder will offer up the profiles of the specific attendees for you to swipe through on the app.
Okay, so wait. If you go to that pottery class, make eye contact with someone across the room, but you miss your chance to actually go up and introduce yourself,
The app catches you afterward.
here's where it gets really interesting, though, because looking at this, I have to push back on the premise.
No. How so?
Aren't these events just, normal dates or just normal human hobbies? Are tech companies really taking the concept of going outside, slapping a corporate logo on a trivia night, and trying to take credit for human interaction?
It is a totally fair critique. The tech industry has a long habit of disrupting things that have existed for centuries.
Exactly.
The article even notes that competitors are already heavily leaning into this space. TechCrunch reported that apps like Breeze, TimeLeft, and Thursday are entirely focused on generating in-person connections.
So Tinder is playing catch-up.
They are actually quite late to recognizing this trend. However, what makes Tinder's approach unique is that specific hybrid nature we just talked about, the post-event digital safety net.
Providing a second chance if you chicken out in person.
It goes deeper than just a second chance, really. It bridges a very specific gap for a generation that grew up socializing largely behind screens. They are providing a digital buffer for physical spaces.
That makes sense.
Gen Z wants authenticity. They want to see how a person behaves in the real world,
Yeah.
like how they treat a waiter at trivia night or if they are actually funny in person.
Sure.
But the idea of a traditional cold approach in public carries an immense amount of social pressure and fear of rejection. Tinder's strategy lowers that pressure. You get the authentic real-world observation, but you can defer the actual risk of rejection back to the digital interface later that night. It is a highly calculated middle ground.
It is like training wheels for traditional socialization. You get to be in the room, but the app is still holding your hand. And they are also trying to simulate that real-world interaction within the app itself for people who aren't in Los Angeles going to these pilot events.
Right, the new speed dating thing.
Yeah, the article mentions a new virtual speed dating feature launching in the spring.
Structurally, this represents a massive departure from the core Tinder mechanic. This feature won't be in person, but it forces users to meet via 3-minute video chats.
3 minutes is incredibly quick.
It is.
But I guess it's also long enough to know if you want to immediately end the call.
Exactly. It changes the entire behavioral loop. Crucially, this is restricted to photo-verified users only, which directly targets the bot problem we discussed earlier.
That's smart.
But more importantly, it forces active engagement. You cannot passively zombie swipe while watching television. You have to look at another human being, read their facial expressions, and maintain a conversation for 3 minutes.
That's a lot of friction compared to a swipe.
It directly combats the psychological fatigue of infinite, frictionless choice by demanding absolute presence.
All right, so that paints a picture of the low-tech, or at least the human-centric side of this $50 million overhaul. They are pushing people into pottery classes with a digital safety net, and they are forcing active engagement through 3-minute video chats. But as we move into the second half of this strategy, the narrative sharply shifts. We move away from this folksy, community-first solution to a highly invasive, high-tech operation happening completely behind the scenes.
This is the real pivot.
Yeah, because apparently, to make these new connections feel organic and authentic, Tinder is leaning heavily into artificial intelligence.
This is where the overhaul becomes incredibly complex. Tinder CEO, Spencer Rascoff, stated publicly that they are utilizing AI to surface more relevant connections and, quote, raise the bar on safety.
Okay.
He specifically mentioned that because Gen Z wants dating to feel authentic, lower pressure, and worth their time, AI is the necessary tool to filter out the noise and deliver that curated experience.
Well, some of the AI features they outline make total sense from a basic security standpoint. They introduced a face check photo verification feature back in October, specifically to fight back against the bots and the scammers.
Which is much needed.
That is just necessary housekeeping for a platform dealing with a trust deficit. They also mention an AI learning mode designed to analyze user behavior to quickly ascertain what someone actually wants rather than what they say they want.
Right.
But then the article outlines something called chemistry. And unlike a standard survey where you check boxes about your hobbies, this feature requires granting the app direct access to your phone's camera roll.
Which is a massive escalation in data collection. It is moving from what you choose to tell the app about yourself to what your device inherently knows about you.
It's wild.
The source material explicitly drops the phrase, Black Mirror, anyone.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of describing this feature.
So what does this actually mean in practice? Let me extend that analogy from earlier.
Go for it.
Giving a dating app algorithmic access to your personal camera roll is like letting a blind date rummage through your messy bedroom closet before you have even bet.
Absolutely.
But they aren't just looking at the clothes you decided to hang up. They are checking the receipts in your coat pockets to see where you actually spend your Friday nights. They are checking the wear and tear on your hiking boots to see if you actually go to the mountains, or if you just put that on your profile because it looks good.
That is exactly what it's doing.
It is moving from self-reported data to verified behavioral surveillance.
The underlying mechanism of how the AI processes that camera roll data is what makes it so powerful. It isn't just looking for a nice photo to put on your profile. It is scraping metadata.
Like location and timestamps.
Exactly. The AI uses advanced image recognition to identify complex lifestyle patterns. Does this person take photos mostly outdoors? Are there multiple different pets in these images?
Wow.
Does the location metadata show they are frequently at concert venues late at night or mostly at coffee shops early in the morning? It builds a comprehensive behavioral matrix based on the pixels, timestamps, and geolocation data in your phone.
That is incredibly thorough.
It bypasses your aspirational, curated dating profile to determine your actual lived reality.
It finds out who you really are when you aren't trying to impress anyone.
What's fascinating here is the massive paradox at the absolute core of Tinder's strategy. Think about the two halves of this overhaul.
Okay.
In order to give Gen Z the authentic, organic, real-world, and lower-pressure dating experience that they are desperately craving, Tinder is utilizing highly invasive, behind-the-scenes algorithmic surveillance.
It is manufactured serendipity through total data extraction.
Perfectly said. They are attempting to generate a spontaneous, natural, romantic spark by feeding your most private digital artifacts into a machine learning model.
It's just bizarre to think about.
For you, the listener, this highlights a critical tension in our modern relationship with technology. We're constantly negotiating this exact trade-off across dozens of apps. How much of our privacy, how much of our raw, unfiltered data are we willing to surrender in exchange for the promise of a perfectly curated outcome?
And in this instance, that outcome is a mathematically optimized romantic connection. Exactly. And they wrap the surveillance entirely in the comforting language of safety and authenticity. The CEO talks about raising the bar on safety, and the article notes they are ramping up AI-powered safety features to quickly identify unwanted interactions in real time.
Right. They're framing it as a shield.
They are clearly reading the room. They know their user base is terrified of bots, exhausted by creeps, and sick of wasting time on bad dates. So their pitch is essentially,
Let us protect you.
yeah, the digital wilderness is too dangerous for you to navigate alone. Let our AI watch everything, let it analyze your entire life, and we will keep you safe and find your soulmate.
It is the ultimate form of technological paternalism. The platform assumes the role of an all-knowing matchmaker, but the cost of that guidance is total visibility. You have to let the algorithm see everything so it can protect you from the negative aspects of the very ecosystem it created in the first place.
Let's pull all of this together and look at the whole picture. We started this deep dive looking at a massive technology platform bleeding its most vital demographic and facing a genuine existential crisis.
A $50 million crisis.
Right. Match Group realizes their foundational product is broken, so they throw $50 million at the problem. And the result is this wild, dual-pronged strategy pulling in opposite directions.
On one hand, you have the aggressive analog push, getting people off the couch, pushing them into Los Angeles pottery classes and trivia nights.
Yeah.
They are creating physical social communities, but weaving a digital safety net underneath them to catch a socially anxious generation that wants to observe before they engage.
And on the other hand, you have the invisible, omnipresent hand of AI, forcing presence through 3-minute verified video chats, machine learning algorithms silently analyzing your in-app behavior, and a chemistry feature that literally scans the metadata of your private camera roll to figure out who you are behind the curated facade.
The reason this matters so deeply, why this is worth a deep dive even if you have never downloaded a dating app in your life, is because it reflects a much broader society-wide cultural shift.
Absolutely.
We are watching one of the largest technology companies in the world attempt to reverse engineer analog, messy human experiences, specifically because the digital environments they originally built became too exhausting.
Too gamified.
And ultimately too toxic. It is the snake eating its own tail. They are forced to use more advanced, more invasive technology to solve the behavioral problems created by their previous technology.
It is like they built that crowded dystopian singles bar we talked about at the beginning, realized everyone inside was miserable and getting their pockets picked, and their grand solution is to drag you out the back door into a lovely, quiet garden.
Which sounds nice.
Right, but they do it while secretly reading your diary to make absolutely sure you have a good time.
That summarizes the paradox perfectly. The desire for a natural experience facilitated by entirely unnatural means.
So we want to leave you, the listener, with a final lingering thought to mull over on your own. It is something this entire deep dive has been circling around, and it speaks to the core of what we are actually looking for when we use these platforms. We see Tinder chasing this idea of the perfect, safe, AI-curated match. They are spending millions to remove the friction and eliminate the bad dates. But if artificial intelligence eventually becomes so advanced, so incredibly good at scraping our metadata, analyzing our private camera rolls, and predicting our hidden behavioral patterns, that it can actually guarantee a mathematically perfect match.
Do we lose the beautiful, messy human error that makes falling in love actually feel real?
Exactly.
A perfectly optimized algorithm leaves absolutely no room for happy accidents. The friction of dating isn't just a hurdle. It is often the very thing that creates the bond.
If the robots running the bar finally figure out exactly what you want before you even know it yourself, is it still a romance? Or is it just a really successful, highly efficient product delivery? Think about that the next time you open your camera roll. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.